Hello, 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 and welcome back to my channel. I am super excited about this series that I have been presenting specifically for my fellow Christian entrepreneurs. And tonight I'm going to be talking a little bit about fixing your messaging, fixing your messaging. So we do know that a confused mind never buys. And the problem that I see most Christian entrepreneurs too close to their God-given vision that they think their message is clear. And this is not really exclusive to Christian entrepreneurs, but I do use examples that are a little more tailored to that audience. And I say that so that you can kind of see what I'm saying right now isn't really exclusive, but it's a way for me to identify who I'm speaking to, and then for my audience to tune in and hear something that is very relevant to them. Many times we as Christian entrepreneurs, we have a really bold vision. We know our vision is truly aligned with our mission. It's aligned with our calling. And when we have this large vision, we have to be able to align our vision and our offer and with the audience. And sometimes we struggle with that. We struggle to make sales because we are not connecting the dots appropriately. So today I'm going to give you three simple shifts that will take your message from clear as mud to something that really resonates with the audience that you're intending to engage with online. And that's really important for all of us as business owners to be able to identify who it is that we're speaking to and make sure that they understand that we are talking to them. So, one thing I would encourage us all to remember is God is not the author of confusion. And since we are made in his image, we don't have to be either. So, our messaging can be clear, our messaging can be focused, our messaging can be very intentional, and it can be something that leaves our audience with the understanding that they know what it is that we do, they know who we serve, and they know what they're able to get from us and the value of that offer. Your message isn't clear just because you understand it. Your message is clear because your buyers understand it. Okay. So, with that, let me introduce myself. My name is Avery Pink-Lewin. I am a communication and messaging strategist by day. I am a certified executive coach, and then I am also a tech systems simplifier. What does that mean? Is I know for a fact that too many people get caught up with the whole tech piece, and I aim to simplify it so that we can take our very clear message, very no-brainer offer, launch it into the public, and bring in buyers. Okay. So I help Christian entrepreneurs go from God-given idea to profitable reality. And this is without tech headaches, as I mentioned, it's without marketing confusion, and it's truly without compromising our kingdom values. I've worked with hundreds of clients at this point. I have worked with multi-million dollar campaigns. And the ones that I see that get results are the ones who really nail their message first and get it out there in a way that their audience can resonate. It resonates with their audience. So with that being said, let's jump right on in. So let's talk about the core problem. Okay. So when your message is muddy, three things are going to happen. First thing is your audience does not know the problem you solve. And before they know that they are the person that you want to talk to, they should know which problem that you're solving. I think it's extreme. I cannot emphasize the importance of really nailing the problem because that's how you're going to frame everything. I remember when I first started in this entrepreneurial journey and I was still in undergrad and I used to make money online doing all kind of things, going on eBay, selling on eBay, graphic design, customizing MySpace profiles and Black Planet profiles, all of those things. And when I started venturing a little bit more intentionally into the entrepreneur space, I stayed where I was comfortable, web design, graphic design. And in my mind, anybody who wants to be found online needs a website. And so I just said my services are for anybody who needs a website, but that's not entirely true. Yes, anybody needs a website, but what type of website? What problem do they have, and why are they choosing me as the person for their solution? And if I can go back to my younger self, I would let her know, yes, you are accurate. Everybody who wants to be found online needs a website. But you are not equipped to build every website, and you are certainly not equipped to manage every client. So, what would have saved me a lot of headache is being very crystal clear on the type of website that I wanted to work on, but the type of problem that, existed. So, and it doesn't have to be this earth-shattering problem. It literally could have been websites for soon to be married couples, right? So website talking about how they met and the details of their wedding, showcasing their wedding party, um, really being able to convey relevant information. The problem that I could have solved is how to help a future bride and groom get their website up so that their guests, so they have a way to manage digital RSVPs for their guests, for their invitees, right? It's not an earth-shattering problem, but I could have chosen that. And that's the problem that I want to get. So if you're recently married, you want to launch a website, you want to call me because I can get it up really quickly. You have to give me the minimal information. I can get it done. And here's the thing, another problem that I could have tackled was um, you don't know what to say on your website, but I do. You know what I mean? So my websites come with content development. So those types of things that kind of make me stand out. So you're not just buying a website, but you're buying a full service website that you don't have to worry about the content. Sit with me, let's have an interview, and then I'll spit you back out your content. And then you can edit. Because one thing I do know, I have been doing this way longer. I've been in the communication space longer, and I digress, but I am going to say that there are more editors in the world than there are people who can create a thing, right? People can tweak, but it's very hard to create. And so I can simply make your life easier by providing you the first pass at your web content. So anyway, those are kind of examples of the problem that I can solve and for who. Because when I talk about the problem, you can then connect it to, well, who has this problem? And then it's a little bit of a a short path to your target audience so that you don't think everybody's your audience. So I think it's very important that we start by leaning into the problem. And another reason why the problem is so much more critical for you to start with is another area we tend to struggle as Christian entrepreneurs is in the area of value-based pricing. So we typically end up undercharging. You typically end up doing way too much for the free 99, and you can't sustain your business because you're not pulling in enough revenue to sustain. So I'm going to talk about that in another video, but I want to show the connection between not knowing the problem, because when you know the problem, you're able to then attach a value-based message, and people pay for value. They don't necessarily pay kind of just like your arbitrary price and your arbitrary rate. Sometimes we feel a little funny about asking for the money because we don't really know that the product is valuable enough or that we're actually going to be able to solve that problem. So we tend to tiptoe around asking for it and we end up discounting. Trust me, that's kind of the way it goes, especially as faith-based and especially as women. But leaning in with the problem will really help to alleviate some of that because you're equipped with the knowledge like, hey, I'm going to solve this. I'm going to solve it. It's going to be quicker, faster, cheaper, whatever the case may be. those are the things that are going to go in your message. And it's going to be clear to someone, be like, if you want to save time, you want to go ahead and pay for the service. If you want to do it more streamlined, go ahead and pay for this service. If you want to do it, and of course we have to massage that message a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's really that problem that helps to define that. A lot of my marketing colleagues, my communication colleagues tend to have their clients lean in first with their audience. That's why I'm a little bit different. I'm a little bit different because my goal and the focus for my company is to help my clients bring in buyers. And when we bring in buyers, people are buying solutions. They're not they're not just kind of not kicking tires. And if they are kicking tires, it's mainly because they need something, but the brand that they're engaging with hasn't really presented an offer. So all they do is kind of kick tires around. They like their stuff. They like to engage in the comments. But when it comes to opening up their wallet, there is a slight disconnect. So all of that to say, you want to lean in with that problem. But the other thing that happens when your message is muddled is your audience doesn't see themselves as your customer, even if they need what you have to offer. So when your message is not clear, there is a disconnect. So someone who knows they need support with, message development, a website, or really identifying the right tech for them, they know they're struggling with that, but there is a disconnect or a block for saying, yes, I'm going to choose such and such a company because I know that's what they do. You're not clearly identifying what you're doing, and you haven't framed your message in such a way that the people who are listening have that problem, have that issue, and they can begin to see. Now, yes, there's a segment of the population that doesn't know they need a thing. Like, especially for me in messaging, most people don't think they have a problem messaging, mainly because in their head, it sounds like they know what they're saying. And when they're speaking it, they think they're saying what's exactly in their head and they think it's so clear. But the problem is what you think is clear does not necessarily translate to what your audience is hearing. So what I have to do to overcome that challenge is to connect the dots on what they're actually experiencing and then let them see how that is a symptom of having a unclear message. So when I do that, now my potential customers can see themselves in the see themselves as a beneficiary of my offer because I've painted the picture so clearly. And if we're all being honest, we know kind of the situation we're dealing with, which is why I prefer to work with faith-based entrepreneurs because we tend to be more honest with ourselves. Even if there's this I don't know, or if there's this lack of awareness, there's still this piece of I can be honest with myself, especially as I'm pointing things out. My honest is like, you know what? Yeah, that's true. I gotta keep it 100. That's true. And that's my own preference. I don't want to work with people who can't be honest with themselves. So that's why I narrowed my niche down. But again, that's a secondary thing. That's secondary. You lay that on top of what I told you first, which is the problem and then being so versed in the problem and so crystal clear about understanding that problem that you can paint a picture so your potential customers see themselves in that. And then the third thing that really happens when your message is muddled is that your customers, potential customers or audience who's listening to you, they can't explain your business to someone else. So for many, 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 many years. I've been in the entrepreneurial space now for almost what's this, 2025. So I've been selling online since like 1998. I must have had like the second account on eBay, is what I like to say. And one of the things that I know for certain is my business has been sustained over the years because word of mouth has been that's how I was eating. That's my go-to is word of mouth marketing. And in addition to word of mouth marketing, secondary to that is people see my work. from a client and then they're like, hey, who did their website? And then I get a referral that way, but it's still word of mouth marketing. And I think it's very important for you to train your audience to be able to let someone else know what you do. The thing you got to be careful of is that you train them with a clear message because then they're out there and they are being ambassadors for you with the wrong message. That is a big no-no. I remember in the last video, if you saw the last video, I shared that when I launched my first online course, it was a beta. And by the grace of God, I got 8 people to sign up for that beta. And when I tell you that is unheard of, but again, not me, it was God. What happened though is almost every one of those 8 people had a very different understanding of what they're going to get beta course. And because of who I am, I made it my business to meet every one of those expectations. But I ended up having to create almost a custom experience for each of the students who enrolled into the program. That was more work. I was burnt out. It was just a nightmare. Can you imagine if each one of those 8 then went out and said, hey, or somebody asked them about their website, about their messaging, about their launch, about their new business, who did you work with, yada, yada, yada. And they said, yes, if you want dot, 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 go here. Now I potentially have all these referrals coming and they were misaligned to this program. It would have been a nightmare and I would have cried. So you really want your customers to be able to clearly articulate who you are because they are kind of your marketing arm. They are bringing your message out and you want to make sure that they're bringing the right message. So I cannot stress enough how important it is for you to be so clear. And many times you just don't know how unclear you are because, again, so close to the vision, so close to the problem, so close to everything. The lesson I learned from that beta helped me to realize that I don't lean into my messaging from a place of my expertise and my passion. Because what happened as a result of that is because I talked about all the things that I could do, and the individuals who were listening that had that particular challenge, problem, or issue, that's what they heard and that's what they zoned into. So I got 8 people that had a different expectation based on the problem that they had. That was not necessarily the issue. So, yes, people do hear your message and they do see themselves in it. The problem is I spoke about too much. My message was too wide. It was too broad. And I use the analogy of throwing a fish net out. And rather than being intentional about the pond that I was fishing, like if I wanted to catch salmon and I went out to the ocean and I just threw it and I just pulled in all of the fish. Some of them might be a salmon, some of them might be a, bass, some of them might be um porgy, some of them might be snapper, that was my fault because I should have just went to fish in a salmon pond, right? I should have just went fishing where the salmon was because I want salmon. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. But if your messaging causes your clients all to expect something different, that is clue that your message is muddled and it is going to cost you big time, in energy, in money, in effort. It's just going to cost. So, how do you fix that? So, let's talk a little bit about the fixes. So, shift number one that I need you to make is to, again, lead with their problem, not your passion. So, when we talk about our businesses, many of us, we do tend to, as Christian entrepreneurs, we definitely tend to really highlight the calling, highlight the mission, and how God gave us this vision. And all of that is important. All of that matters. But it doesn't tell your audience what problem it is that you're solving. So what it does is it serves to inspire, which is great, but as business owners, one of the things we need to do is garner some sales. We need revenue. So we need messaging that's going to cause folks to definitively act. And that action that we want is to purchase. We want buyers. So that's why for me and my business and with my clients, I help them focus on how to bring buyers into their business, especially in the beginning phases where it's critical, because the more buyers you can bring in and the earlier you can bring your buyers in is the more you have the resources for additional services, coaching, additional products, technology that you can leverage. You can play with way more and you have access to way more. So you definitely want to lean into and make it a point. Again, you are a business. I talked a little bit about the trap of my business is my ministry. That is not a thing. I don't even see that in scripture. Your ministry can help set culture and set the tone, but business principles, aka revenue, income, profit, is going to sustain your company over time. So lean with their problem and they'll lean in to hear your solution. Like that's how it works. Lean into them, they'll lean into you. The second shift that I need you to make is to speak their language. So the words that you use to describe your offer in your head may not be how your audience talks about it. So what you're going to need to do is know their exact words. And there are ways to do this. You can speak to them directly, but sometimes as a new business, you're tiptoeing around, those conversations because you're not really quite sure how they should go. You don't want to sound inexperienced. You don't want to sound, that you're not the expert or the professional. You can simply type it into Google because folks are looking for help. Type it into Google, find a Reddit forum, go to places online where people are asking questions, and then type in your keyword that's associated to your business and see what questions are being asked. How they ask the question is a clue for you to frame your narrative. So in my course, what I do is I walk my clients through this, but it really is that simple. Type it into Google, extract the words that they're using as the query, reverse engineer the query into your messaging, and then use that in your marketing. Okay. That's how your audience is going to know that you get them. It's not rocket science, but sometimes it does help to walk through it with somebody who has done it plenty of times before. But that's in essence what you're going to be doing. So that's how you want to really ensure that your audience knows that, yeah, I like this person because it's like they're in my head. Again, I'm talking to Christian entrepreneurs. I know I'm not the only one that's been sitting in the pew in service and the preacher's up there talking and you're like, dang, was he or she stalking me? Like, how is it? How are they able to say that? It's because we're all creatures of habit. So the reality is we feel that way because there is a connection that we can make. We see ourselves there because it's the language that we use. It's the feelings that we are exhibiting. It's the emotion that we're feeling that they are telling us back and they are spot on accurate. That is how you want your message to resonate with your audience. So that's shift number two. Shift number three is you want to make the result and the wins super obvious, super clear. Your audience isn't buying a program or a service, they're buying the result of your service or your program. They're buying, people use the word transformation. They're buying the how to get from point A to point B, and your solution, your product, or your service is that bridge to get them over that challenge. So you've got to be able to clearly paint the picture of where they are now, where they want to be, and how your offer is bridging that gap. Make it clear, use their language. Make sure that they can see themselves. Make sure it's practical. Make sure you demonstrate that you understand the nitty-gritty, that you understand how they feel in this place where they are right now. And you understand that what they're hoping to feel in that place of like their ideal state. And you paint the picture of their ability to move from where they are now to where they would like to be, and the reality of how it is as for you to be their guide in doing so. And as you do that, those people who are like, yeah, I kind of like that. This is what I've been looking for. They understand it. It makes for an easier yes. It makes for an easier yes. And as you are refining your messages, you begin to learn how to message it in a way that, and this is what I share in my program, is how to bring buyers in, not people who are looking for a solution but don't want to pay for it, but looking for a solution and they are fully aware that they have to pay for it and they're willing to pay for it because they see how it can get them what they need quicker, faster than they can do it for themselves. So anyway, here's a little mini exercise for you. I want you to test your clarity. So explain your offer to three different people. All right. So you're just getting started in business. You can totally, I'm going to tell you the types of three. There are three types of people that I'm going to suggest for you to explain your offer to. So the first one is going to be somebody in your target audience. You may not have decided definitively, but what you want to do is the closest match to who you think you want to focus on. You want to find somebody that fits that bill. You also want one that is outside of your target audience, one that is outside of your target audience. So somebody, another adult who you is not in your target audience, but you want to get their feedback on, does this make sense? So you want somebody outside of your industry, somebody not looking for your solution. And then you also want, my recommendation is that the third person is going to be a child. How simple is what you're offering? Can a child understand? And when I say child, I'm thinking, somewhere between the ages, I would say 8 and 12. You want to be able to see, can they understand what it is that you are doing? Or do you have to simplify your message even more? And simplifying your message does not mean dumb it down, but it is, do you have to be a little bit more clear and descript in what you're saying? Do you have to paint a picture a little bit better? Does it have to be a little bit more relatable? What does that message look like so that a child can understand? And children can understand a lot. So I'm not saying that you got to be, real sparse in what you say or you got to use very, very low level language. But I think there's something to say about how clear your message is. If a child can understand, then so can a busy adult. So can somebody who's juggling. If your target audience are, moms of infants, come on, good luck with you with that. They are tired. So you want to be very clear about who your audience is and make sure that the consideration for can they understand it is done. Now, if your audience is like, scientists or rocket scientists or something like that, clarity and brevity is still a important characteristic for your message to display. Okay. So it's not just the fact that it's a child and children have limited context, but it really will help you to be able to develop messages that are clear, succinct, and that provides enough context and descriptively describes what you're doing. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. Hopefully that was helpful. I love this stuff. I love being able to share this freely. In my program, my Faith to Fruition framework is all about messaging clarity and it's the foundation. If you can't communicate the value that God put in your hands, the people who need it will never find it. Okay. So I think it's very important for us. It's also important where we think through um, applying some of the principles, the biblical principles that we use in ministry, we apply it to our business so that it gives God something to bless. Because again, He put this idea in our heart. He gave us this vision. We are stewarding that vision. And one of the most important things that our business can do is to be provision for the kingdom of God here on earth and advance the message and the mission of God in the earth. So in my opinion, bar none, the the whole idea of a successful business goes back to kingdom stewardship. So I mean, that's it for right now. If this helped you in any way, shape, or form, go ahead and subscribe, turn on notifications. I am going to dive into the next topic in the next video, which is tech paralysis. Listen, if you have been struggling or on the struggle bus with your technology, first thing is I'm going to get you up off that bus because we belong to the Most High and there's no such thing as a struggle for us. Okay? No such thing as a struggle for us. And I am definitely not going to leave you in a place where you think you're struggling when there are four very specific things you need from a tech standpoint to get started. And you can do that for the low to no investment and with some tools that are pretty, relatively uh, simpler to use. Okay. So, I definitely would like for you to continue watching, and drop any questions or comments that you would like me to respond to. I am excited about releasing this series here on YouTube, and I am excited about really doubling down on YouTube. I don't know where you all are at and what platforms you all are using, but YouTube is my platform. I'm super excited to be here, and I would love to journey with you all. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to leave you with this. God gave you this vision for a reason. And I'm here to partner with you to steward it well by making sure that the people who need it can understand it, understand your services and products. They can receive it and they can act on that message when they hear it. So I will see you in the next video. Thank you again so much for watching, and you all have a blessed rest of your day. Bye.